Hello and welcome to another episode of the Square Ball podcast powered by William Hill, and it is the final episode of season 1. I don't know how we've got here. Our thanks to all of you listening. That's the reason we've managed to get through to the point we are at today. We've had an unbelievable summer bringing you the biggest names, the biggest stories, some incredible insights into the lives on and off the field of some of the most well-known and infamous in some cases characters in the Gaelic games world and camogie and hurling over the last few months. We've just had a blast bringing it your way, and your interaction on YouTube, on our social channels. So many of you have subscribed to the William Hill Ireland YouTube channel, to the Square Ball YouTube channel, and been in touch with us on Instagram and our various social channels as well. And we've really appreciated some of the questions and the comments that have come our way. Don't be too upset, because we do hope to be back very soon. We're just drawing the curtain on season 1, and we hope that we have put enough groundwork in that we'll be able to bring you some more brilliant episodes in the very near future. Of course, we needed to go out with a bang today. So Conor McManus has decided to come back in for one last hurrah. And you've lost the cast on the arm as well. You've been downgraded.
So I can get a jumper on now, so I'm happy with that.
So is there a chance that we'll see you in a Clontarf shirt before the end of the county championship?
Well, it's a wee bit more positive than maybe it was, but it's just very much down to how it knits, and if it knits, I'm not completely out of the woods yet in that front, but it's definitely good to have 3 weeks of it over me anyway, and out of that cast, so I'm happy with that.
We've only had a couple of hurlers on the podcast so far. We've had Pádraig Maher. We've obviously had Aisling Thompson, who went on to win the Camogie All-Ireland with Cork a couple of months after we spoke to her. Not saying we had any influence in that, but you know, maybe the positive vibes we put out that day. Today we got one of the greatest of all time, and there's only a certain number of GA characters and hurlers whereby if you just give somebody the Christian name, they know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm talking Henry, Christie, TJ, Morris, if we're talking about a footballer. You know exactly who we're talking about when we say Morris. And when we say Joe, I haven't said a surname yet. Everybody listening will know exactly who we're talking about.
100%. To me, probably the best hurler that I've ever watched. Now, listen, obviously, don't have the luxury of having watched, you know, the greats back in the day, but you know, from when I was watching hurling, grew up watching the greats and the great Kilkenny teams and the great Clare teams, and I can't think of anybody that has picked up a hurl that has been better or can do things with a sliotar and a hurl that he has done. And
to borrow a line from the now late great Micheál O'Murray, you're not exactly from a hurling stronghold.
Not from a stronghold by any stretch. But you don't need to be to appreciate what this man could do with a sliotar and hurl in his hand. You know, if you watch his highlight reel, just some of the things that he did. You know, the reverse pass in the All Ireland Club final, the score against Kilkenny, I think it was in the Leinster final, where he's hit the ball coming from the canal inside to the Hill 16, and he's watching it coming over his shoulder, and he has it caught and swung all in one motion. You know, the point against Tipperary in the All Ireland semi final. Sideline cuts, you know, we said this off air, like anytime he got a sideline cut, you just put the white flag up. It was unbelievable to watch, you know, and it's a pity he's still not playing. You see, you're looking at him out there and chatting him beforehand, and you think, Jesus, this man could definitely still play hurling like at a top level. His touch and ability was just outrageous.
There's only about 18 months between the two of you, and you still haven't officially retired, so I don't know. Obviously, the news this week that Micheál O'Donoghue is taking the reins to Galway again. Immediately the speculation, much like it did around Michael Murphy when Jim McGuinness returned as the Donegal manager. Surely he'll be back. But
I suppose with Michael, he was only maybe gone 1 year. Joe's obviously gone a couple of years now, so it's very hard to see him that he will come back in. But stranger things have happened. If Michael O'Donoghue picked up the phone, I know if I was him, that's the first thing I'd be doing to try and tempt him. But I'm sure, look, he's moved on and he's moved past that stage of his life. And obviously, you know, he's been involved with minor teams and under 20 teams and things like that. So I'd say that seems to be where his focus is at. And obviously still hurling with Portumna.
Okay, we get him in?
Yeah.
One of the biggest names in GAA, one of the greatest hurlers of all time. This is the Joe Canning episode of the Square Ball podcast. So welcome back. It is the Square Ball GAA podcast, and the great man himself has joined us in studio. Joe Canning, you're very welcome.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, lads.
We wanted to go out with a bang, so
We've done that.
You missed the little chat that myself and Conor had, but you're one of those lads, and look, we're going to embarrass you a little here now, but you're one of those hurlers / footballers who people only need to know the first name. So we say, we've got Joe on the podcast, And we had a Joe on the podcast a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
Joe Brawley.
Yeah,
But maybe people might think we're referring to him. But like you up there with Sean Ogan, Henry and TJ, that when we say Joe, people know it's Joe Canning we're talking about. This was your third year watching on from the sidelines in the RT studios. How have you found it?
It's okay. In a perfect world, obviously, you'd love to be still playing for the rest of your life. Like, you know, when you're a kid growing up and stuff like that, you think you're playing forever. You know, like you never think of retirement or anything like that. But I suppose when you're in it for so long, you have to listen to your body and kind of listen to. You kind of feel it almost more so than anything. So yeah, I'm content that I'm not chasing around after any fast lads anymore, any backs or anything like that. Especially the way it's kind of gone with your half backs attacking now and stuff. But I wish I could still play and that's being straight up about it. I think everybody could, if they're really honest, no matter what time they retire, wish they could always still play. Because
you were reasonably young, like you're 32 when you retire, and that's a lot of players obviously are retiring earlier and earlier now because of the levels of commitment that are required at the inter-county level. But I guess it's the fact that you were 18 when you made your debut. Like at 32, you've still got all those miles on the clock and 15 years of inter-county hurling. Like if you'd been 20, 21, do you think you might still be playing?
Like I did. I like when you say 32, it seems a little bit young now when you look at yourself or whoever, like the or TJ or Patrick Horgan or whoever, like they were lads that was kind of growing up around my time as well. But a guy said to me before, you can you can never get out too early, but you can always get out too late. And that was always in my head, that I didn't want to be there as a...
Who said that to you?
I don't know who it was, but it was like...
Good advice though.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Always leave them wanting more.
Well, I didn't want to just be around for and living off maybe reputation or whatever. I didn't want to be just... And I was kind of feeling at the time that maybe... Just with the year it was in, we'd new management maybe coming in the year before, and COVID was a little bit different as well. I didn't enjoy the training on my own part of things. I found that really difficult. That really, really difficult. I still find it really difficult, like doing anything on your own. I've always been a team sport. I don't know if you were the same, Conor.
But that came up in conversation. It was last week. We're talking about that. Like, COVID period was torture.
Yeah,
there was zero enjoyment in it.
Yeah,
you know, and even going back to playing, you were playing in front of empty stadiums. And
it felt like challenge games and stuff like that. Like when we were playing and in Crow Park, and you can hear everything. And it's just really strange. But did that have an effect? Probably in my headspace a little bit, probably. And then new management came in. I was playing centre forward for a long time, and they kind of saw me somewhere different, and I was wing forward and midfield. I actually ended up full forward, back in again. So in my own head I was kind of going like, these lads don't really, maybe see me slipping a little bit, or they don't trust me enough, or
were you slipping? Was there any part of your game that you felt 2020, 2021 time just wasn't where it was 5 years previously?
Obviously it wasn't the same as where it was 5 years previously, but I definitely wasn't as sharp, let's say. Probably with the COVID thing and fitness and stuff, I probably wasn't. I was picking up injuries a lot easier. Like I remember I had a small tear in my hamstring. I broke my thumb. My heel was at me, and one or two little things. Like I think I had about 4 injuries between that water from my last game and the game before that, and I just wasn't getting a right run of it. And then you just don't feel like you're never fully anyway. You're never no player is 100%, no matter what they say. If you were 100%, I think you're hiding a small bit in training, aren't you? You know, like you're minding yourself.
But even from your point of view, like you were talking about from 18 to 32, and obviously maybe potentially pulled the pin early, but you were different to a lot of county players in that you started at 100 miles an hour, whereas a lot of, like, even I know my own career, you know, you had time to sort of feel your way into the team, and you know, you could be a secondary or third part sort of a player, whereas you were thrown in main man from day one, like, you know. Well, so that's like, not easy either.
Yeah, like I played club senior at 15, and we were contesting county finals on All Ireland clubs at that stage, like.
So you were expected to be the main man when you came into the door,
like even going back, I played under 21 club at 13. I was in goals.
Were you in goal? That's
in goals, yeah. Like my brother Ivan went out of goals because.
Were you a tall 13-year-old, or are you this tiny speck in the
No,
in the
I was
goal?
tall. Yeah, I was tall enough. I was always kind of tall enough for my age at the time, but yeah, I was still small enough, I suppose. At 13, yeah, still 13, but like I have nephews now that are 15. Like, jeez, I couldn't imagine them playing senior club now with us. Like. I've even lads 18, 19, they're playing with us now, but like they're, you know, they probably have a bit of filling out to do in some ways. But so for me growing up, I was always playing like 4, 5, 6 years ahead of me. So like, if you think back, when I was 15, I was playing my club 16s, minor, 21s, senior. I was playing Galway 16s and minor as well. And then I played 4 years 21 as well, and Fitzgibbon and whatever.
It's a miracle you made it to your 30s at all.
No, but you know, like, so there's a lot on the clock, and I never really broke. I didn't break too many bones. I was lucky enough that way. I had a few injuries, but it was only when I got to the end of my career that I had some serious injuries. And you probably wish you had them when you were younger, because you could recover a lot easier. Do you know? Yeah. So, my serious injuries, my hamstring, my 2 groin, like, tore all the tendons off bones with hamstring and 2 groins, and then my knee is pretty banjaxed as well. So, those kind of injuries, when you get them laid on, I think kind of bring that back to 32 instead of maybe 35 or 36.
We were talking about Jimmy Guinness taking the Donegal job again earlier in the year, and immediately the question on everyone's lips was, I wonder when Michael Murphy come back. Now, as Connor said a moment ago, the difference is he was only 1 year out, where you're 3 years out, with the news that this week Micheál has taken the job again, and Micheál O'Donoghue was back in Galway. Is that just... I mean, there was never any chance, whether, like, would he even bother picking the phone up to you?
I don't think so, no. I texted him all right the other day, because I texted him when he went to Dublin, and like... I just texted him a load of money bags when he went to Dublin. And I texted him a load of money bags again for the Galway, but I think it's less probably, just for the bit of crack from it. But no, Jesus, no, he wouldn't. I'd have to get bigger jerseys or something anyway. I'd have to do another year hard training.
Get rid of those player fit jerseys.
Yeah. But no, that's long gone. Yeah, geez, there's always an egotistical point that you'd love to be still playing, or, but no, that's long gone. Yeah,
I remember watching you after Galway were eliminated in the championship this year. You were on RT, and you're being paid to be eloquent and articulate and give us the deep dive into what's gone wrong. And I just felt you were really struggling to come up with something to say, because there was nothing to say. You know, it was. From a Galway perspective, this year was just so depressing.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like, and that's just being honest. But like, in those situations, when you're putting yourself on TV, you have to be. When I decided to do it at the start, I wasn't going to be biased towards Galway, even though I'm like, yes, I'd love them to win the All Ireland every year or whatever. But if things don't go right, they don't go right, and I have to call it like that. But it's funny when you look back on it, right? And it's probably my Galway kind of small bias coming back, but that Leinster final last year was probably a little turning point for the whole for the whole setup. I think, like, if they won that Leinster final last year, the one with Killian Buckley scored the last second goal, it could be a totally different picture. You know, they'd be in an All Ireland semi final. Potentially against Clare last year. They could have been, who knows, maybe in an All-Ireland final. And then you're coming into this year and it's completely different outlook.
Yeah.
Whereas you get beaten by Limerick a couple of years in semi-finals, it's, you're coming up with, what are we doing wrong? And it's, no matter whether you think about it or not, there's that negativity of losing some big games always. So if you pair back I suppose, those kind of things, they lost to Dublin, and like Davy got sent off early enough and massive wind, and then they're gone out of the championship, and it's just at that moment in time, it's from a supporter's point of view, but they're better than that. The team is a lot better than that, that's for sure. But it's just very frustrating when you want somebody to do really well and it just doesn't happen. So yeah, I've, like, as players, we all go through times when you just don't know what's going wrong and you have no explanation to. So I'd feel sorry for obviously Henry and the backroom team, but also the players and everybody. But like, people have to realise that Galway, we're not blessed with winning All Irelands anyway. We've 5, I think, altogether. So it's,
you're in the same amount of
expectation
All Irelands as Clare,
level.
for example.
Yeah.
And you've fewer than Limerick, than Wexford, than Dublin.
Yeah. And I think it's all that minor under 21 maybe success and underage success that spikes it in a different vision for people outside, that where's all these going. But like, I played minor for 3 years with Galway, and we got 3 All Irelands, and whatever, maybe 30 guys in a panel, 90 players, maybe 70 because there's a bit of crossover, right? 70 players out of 3 years. Like 4 guys played for 10 years or more.
Transition, yeah.
For 10 years, like, I'd say a career maybe is about 10 years, give or take, right?
And that's being mirrored now with Galway won 5 All Irelands in 6 years at minor level, and there just doesn't seem to be enough of those guys really established.
Yeah, not on the team yet, but
some of those lads are in their mid-20s now.
Yeah. But like, nowadays you don't see any 19, 20-year-old really coming into a senior setup anymore. And for a long time with Galway, it was all about success at minor or under 20, and it wasn't about development onto seniors.
Senior teams.
And has that changed yet?
It has changed, yeah. It has changed. That takes time. That takes serious time, and it's the whole physical development more so than probably anything, because hurling wise, we were always nice hurlers or whatever, but physically it was probably our biggest letdown. Like, you don't see the likes of, I suppose, even Limerick now. Like, they haven't won minors or under 21s in the last number of years, but they're still winning seniors or whatever for a few years.
But it took them time too.
It took them time, yeah.
That group.
Yeah, and they're still there. Like, I was at the under 16. I don't even know what you call it anymore, because it used to be different. It used to be the NIA co-op back then when I was playing. But down in Cork a few weeks ago, I had a nephew on the Galway panel, and like Jerry McManus and Joe McKenna are there. Like, and I've seen them 4 or 5 times this year at different underage structures. So they're like leading the whole thing for Limerick, and have been for the last number of years. So it's no surprise that Limerick were where they are with that group of players, because they put in the work years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in Galway especially, I would have found that we were more interested in being successful at the now and not thinking about the bigger picture. And that was really hard then for the likes of Mihal, likes of Henry and Shane O'Neill and these guys to get players coming to him that he needed to
they needed to play into county.
Yeah, because they weren't. They were needed to develop another 3 or 4 years.
There's no use to them.
And it was no use to them. And they're kind of wondering, geez, where's all these kids coming? And they have them, but they need a long time to develop into senior inter-county players.
So you came from an era where an 18-year-old arriving onto the inter-county scene was far more common.
Yeah.
But, and I'm sure you probably empathise with David Clifford around 2018, 2019, because we saw him ripping up opposition defences in All-Ireland minor finals, and we just thought this guy's ready-made, and there's so much expectation. I remember watching those club finals in 06, 07, and well, it was amazing to watch someone so young doing such great things. I always felt sorry for you, because whether you were looking at the pundits before a Galway inter-county game and they were talking about Ollie, and everyone kept saying, oh, you should see the young fellow who's coming up behind him. We've already seen him playing for Portumna.
Yeah.
This whole Irish thing where there's a little brother that's better than your man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so common. We saw it with the McHugh brothers as well. There's always a McHugh brother coming up around the back. But what was it like being a player of whom so much was expected, so young, playing for Portumna?
To be totally honest about it, I think when you're a young kid, like, it's different now, right? There was no social media back then. So I absolutely just loved it. I loved playing with the older lads. I loved playing on the biggest stage. That's all I wanted to do since I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years of age out on the farm. Like, I remember I used to pretend I was Mikey Sheehy. Or I used to pretend I was like Pat Fox or Johnny Dooley, or like my first 94 All-Ireland, Ollie was playing minor against Cork, and Limerick played Offaly after it, and that was the time Offaly came back, and Johnny Dooley scored a goal, Pat O'Connor scored a goal, Billy Dooley scored 4 or 5 points, and won the game. And like, I watched that video hundreds of times, like, and so for me, growing up, when I got to that stage, I was like,
I just want to play here.
Yeah, I just want to play. And I didn't have I suppose it's different now for people growing up. Like, that social media side of things is underappreciated, really, and the psychological side of things, that you get way more negative feedback as well as positive feedback. Whereas I just, like, you, the paper.
Yeah. You either read it or you don't.
Yeah. And like, yeah, you'd read the paper. I always read papers, and I always like listened or whatever to watch TV or the Sunday game. And that's what people had. Whereas now, it's like 1,000 different opinions, yeah, that you can get it.
You'd
like,
have to go
just
looking
like
for it.
You don't
Whereas
have to.
nowadays,
Yeah. Whereas
it's
now
just
you don't have
impossible
to.
to avoid.
Yeah. So for me, I just loved all that. And like, when I was going, I used to go with Ollie and Davey, my brother, to see Galway senior training and under 21 and minor, and I'd done the hurlers for the 2004 league final, Galway. We're in that against Waterford and Limerick, and I was on the minor panel, and I done the hurls for the Galway seniors, and
Isn't you made
going
the
on
hurls?
the bus. No, like, I was on the sideline.
You're the lad on
hurley
the sideline,
carrier.
right.
Yeah, hurley carrier. So I went in the bus and went to the match, and experienced the whole thing. So I was very lucky to grow up with my family as well, that they were steeped in GAA, and even my sister. I used to go to Galway camogie training. Deirdre was involved with the Galway junior camogie team, and I used to stand in goals when I was like 10 or 12 and go training and buck the balls back, and small things like that, but huge influences on me, and probably unknowns to me at the time, but looking back now, they were huge. Like,
Talk to me about some of the treatment you got, because from reading the match reports and back in the day, you were very often the best player in the field, and obviously the score getter in chief at a very young age. So if you're up against another Galway side in the county championship, there's a good chance if they can look after you, their chances of winning the game are significantly heightened. And you know where I'm going with this. I'm going towards that county final against Loughrea, when like a lad literally walked on your face.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And it's definitely one of the most despicable acts I can ever remember seeing on a hurling or football field. There was absolutely no question as to the intent. He looked at you, and this was just after you'd been smashed with a frontal shoulder to the front of your body, and you're on the ground, and this guy walks up, and he knows exactly who it is he's walking on and what he's going to do. I mean, a lot of players that'd be a psychological scar that they wouldn't be able to shift for quite some time. What was that like for you, knowing this is how you were now starting to be targeted and continually likely to be the way for the future?
Well, you just summed it up better than the Galway County Board did at the time. Anyway, that's for sure, because they didn't see anything wrong with what happened
This is not benefit of the doubt territory.
No,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, he got away with it because, yeah, the Galway County Board didn't see anything wrong with it, so just carry on. And that's the way it was. I didn't like talk about it. Never really spoke about it. It happened like the frustrating part for me is we lost the game. That was our own doing. Because we were in a good position to win the game, but at the same time, yeah, you can see it. Like I didn't really realize at the time what's after happening, lads. It's only when I look back in the video after you could see exactly what happened.
Did it affect you afterwards? Even in a
Probably
positive sense?
Yeah.
kinda
No, it definitely
strengthened you?
steeled me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like I wasn't gonna let anybody walk all over me again. Like, you know,
Literally.
Yeah. It did affect me in a good way. It definitely strengthened me mentally, probably physically, and in some ways I never respected, let's say, the county board after that. Like, you know, never. None of them really. One or two, all right.
How can anybody watch that back and
yeah, I
good
like
conscience decide that there was no malice in that or no intent in it? Or
But that's just the way it was, and then there was loads of stuff being said in the media and stuff, but like nobody spoke to me or.
Did the guy ever apologise?
No. He never came and played a league game actually in Portumna. He played championship, right? Because there was people to see.
Yeah.
You wouldn't come down to Portumna and play a league game. but thing like people talk about the county final. Like Portumna went over to Loughrea the night after, which was a tradition in Galway. I don't know if it's in Monaghan or whatever, but the losers go to the winners' town or village or whatever the following evening. And like I didn't go now, but the rest of the lads went on the Monday evening. Like, so there was no. I think supporters probably drummed it up a lot more.
Yeah.
And
Was there a discussion amongst the lads as to whether or not they should go?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was just we'll go.
Because it was just one individual.
Yeah.
It was a tough match, but it wasn't like they were all at it.
Yeah. No. But that's my point, is that there was a respect there, I suppose, in some ways, that this is tradition. We go, you know. But there was a lot, like everybody says, like Gerlock Nan, I remember coming out and saying that the Galway Hurling Club Championship is so dirty and all that. But like, that was the one worst incident probably that I got. Like, I didn't really. The worst things that I got was from the stand. Like, it was the abuse of the supporters. It's the verbals. Like, that's it. Like, because it's funny. Like, you go out and play with Galway one day, following weekend you're playing against the club, and it's just the supporters. It's not necessarily the players. The players all got along. Like, I've never been a Galway setup where I didn't talk to anybody or the rest of the lads didn't talk to me, or there was loads of times, there's loads of rumours going on. I remember back, we played it's 2013 or that, and we were playing St. Thomas's, and it was a draw match, and then we beat them in the replay, and there was rumours going around that me and Davy Burke didn't talk and stuff, but we were living together for 5 years, like in Ormore, like, so Davy be one of my best friends, like, but like, you know, when all these rumours start and stuff like that.
Happens in every county.
And then people like, and talk about it, and it was all a load of bullshit, really. Like, I never found that the club championship
held Galway back. Or
yeah. It's just, it was an easy thing to say because we weren't winning, and but I never found that. Geez, the club championship is the reason that we're not successful, and I always found that funny because it was always guys from outside the county saying it. Like, I remember, like, Ger said it, Michal Dignan said it. I always going, lads, Jesus Christ, it's not the way it is. Like, and it portrayed a kind of a picture that it was really tough. But like, if you go to any club championship, they're all tough.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're all out to win for their own village or own town. Like, and we were no different in Galway. You know,
Funnily enough, it was Jer who gave you your Galway debut, wasn't it?
Yeah. I flew to it. Would you believe we played Antrim in Belfast, and we flew from Galway Airport to Belfast and flew home. Like that was the
Casement
boom.
Park, was it?
Yeah, Casement Park. Yeah, 2008. Because everybody thinks my debut was against Cork, but we played Antrim, and then we played Laois the following weekend, and then we played Cork. So yeah, my first year was under him. We played actually Cork in a league semi-final, which was my first kind of game, and then Tipperary in the league final, lost that, and then went into championship. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I remember the first day we went, the first train I ever had. We were after winning the club final in early 2008, and training was on the following weekend. He kind of gave us a few days, but like we were on the beer all week after winning the club, and training was for Athenry, and it was supposed to be a pitch session, and we were like, grand, bit of hurling, all right. It was pissing rain in Athenry, the pitch was flooded. He said, come on, they used to have this gym in the Raheen Woods Hotel in Athenry, underground in the car park, so there was like dust everywhere, and like you could barely get your breath. Do this big gym session. Back then, 08, now it was in lift as heavy as you can, as quickly as you can.
Get it up and down.
And then out to this like random farmer's cabbage patch. 10 minutes outside Athenry, and run around that for about an hour. And it was just like lads were getting sick and everything. We're like,
you after dancing through Croke Park 3 days later, 3 days before.
Yeah. So that was my first training ever. I didn't get sick actually. I got through it slowly but surely. But I think we just went back to town in Portumna and had a few beers again. You know, like back then that was the kind of thing that you should do. Yeah. Like gym and all that was like just kind of coming in.
Yeah, just in.
It was like we used to have. It was like Munster Rugby were doing really well. So any S&C with Munster Rugby was like going all around to different GA teams, and it was a different fitness, like completely different. So it was in just lift as heavy as you could, as quickly as you could.
It didn't matter who you were lifting with, whether you was twice the size of you. Everybody lifted the
same weights. It was
no logic to it.
No. But it was different, way different times than what I probably finished with. You know,
anyone who was unaware of your existence prior to that year, obviously, would have been brought to their attention with the 2-12 against Cork, and I've heard it said that the worst thing that ever happened to Joe Canning was scoring 2-12 against Cork. Come in with all this hype, all this expectation, and lo and behold, he delivers on all the hype and all the expectation pretty much on day one. I know the Antrim and Laois games came before, but they went under the radar, but not the Cork game. 2-12, you lose to 14-man Cork team. All of Galway's old failings are there. Can't get it over the line. Bottle jobs, chokers. But Canning is 2-12, and the superstar, the Messiah, is present and correct, and it's only a matter of time now before they deliver. Because you can't top the 2-12, no matter what you do.
Yeah. I was the one that said it was the worst thing I ever done. In expectation wise, because people just expected that.
Start with that.
You know, every day, and if you didn't hit that or hit close to it, you were basically shite. So there was that expectation for a long time.
Is that internally in Galway, that kind of talk?
It was everywhere, really. Do you know, like...
You're still a teenager, like.
Yeah, I know, but like I would have lived with, like, if Galway win, I would have had a good game no matter if I was shite or not. But if we lost, it was like, where was I? And that was the kind of reality in for a long time, because that wasn't my reality, but
no, but that's even what I was saying at the start. Like, you were dealing with that from you were 18, the first day you walked into the door, right till you were 32. Like, whereas players generally only get that when they're 25, 26, 27. You know, for a 5 or 6 year period. But
it was a little bit different, and it didn't really affect me too much when I was younger. When I was older, it affected me more. You're
nearly too carefree at that stage, just to go out and playing.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you're not. And it is that kind of thing. When I was starting, there was no social media or anything like that. When you were older, then social media was coming in, and then you were seeing everything. But I found it difficult when I was older, more so than when I was younger. I didn't really care about what people were kind of saying when I was younger. I was just playing away and enjoying it. When I was getting older, yeah, it did get to me a lot more, and I put more pressure on myself probably then, to try and succeed and stuff. Yeah.
And you're beaten in the qualifiers, and yet you walk off at an All-Star on the Young Hurler of the Year award. That's unthinkable now.
Yeah.
That just simply wouldn't happen. It's ludicrous.
Yeah. It was kind of a token gesture, I'd say. That year more so than Anton. It's, yeah, I don't know. People look at All Stars differently.
How do you mean?
Like, as in, guys would kill for All Stars, and other people look at All Stars as the be all and end all. Me personally,
Not ahead of All Ireland's, like.
Some people probably do. Well, not ahead of All Ireland's, but like to get one is huge. Like, for me, it was never really a huge thing being in that space, and you see some people that do get All Stars and some people that don't, and it probably goes back to the time Brian Whelan got Hurler of the Year and didn't get an All Star. Like, after that, I was just going, this is some joke shop.
You just lost all faith in the system at that point.
Yeah, because it's an opinion, you know, it's different opinions, and like, who makes these decisions? And you see it with different, even players of the year kind of a thing as well. Like, it's like, I probably shouldn't have got that, like, in, what was it, quarter final or whatever it was.
But I listen, again, All Stars are like that, but if somebody has performed the way you have up to that point, why shouldn't you get it? But then the way they operate, then if you're in a final, both teams have to get X amount just purely because you're in the final. Like,
exactly,
you know.
And that's the thing now. Like,
whereas if you played well up to that point, you get it. You know?
Like back then it was probably weighted more to the overall year,
Yeah.
but now it's like semi-final, final, and that's what picks it.
You might see someone win Young Hurler of the Year and not get to an All Ireland semi-final, but they probably would miss out on an All Star.
Yeah,
but for you to get the two of them, I mean, I don't think that's happened since. That somebody's only got to a quarter final.
Oh, maybe to quarter final, yeah.
But anyway, you won that, and look,
they're
the expectation.
They're lovely to have and everything like that. But there's probably years I thought I probably should have got one and didn't, and then there's years I got one and I probably shouldn't have got one. So,
but you didn't care.
No, but like that's what I'm saying. It's like it's guys' opinions, and I'd rather be and you're judged, and then people say you're judging on Ireland's or stuff like that, but it's a team sport, so you need 14 to 19 other guys playing at the top level to win those All Irelands as well. So I think that's when people say you're judged on how many All Irelands you have after your name, that's a wrong thing as well. 'Cause in hurling terms, like Ollie or Damien Hayes or whoever, Ken McGrath, John Milan, like, to me, they're some of the best players ever played the game, you know. So
Patrick Horgan, who we had in here,
exactly. Like, Hoggy is the overall top scorer and everything like that, and one of the best to ever play. So do I look at him any different than people that have maybe 6 or 7? Like, and this is no disrespect, there's lots of guys that have maybe 5 or 6 All Irelands in their back pocket but never pucked the ball in Crow Park. You know, so it just doesn't stack up to me, that they're seen as, what way would you put it, they're not given the full compliment that they should be, just because they don't have an All Ireland, you know.
You didn't get past the quarterfinals in the first 4 years of your senior career, and obviously Gerlach Nance had a go at it. He goes after a year or two.
I didn't want to miss the Galway races, you see. They were always on after a quarter final. It's a fucking joke, I remember
that being the running joke at the time. And then John McIntyre comes in, he gives it a go. Things improve a little, but again, you're not making any massive progress. And then Anthony Cunningham comes in, who'd had a lot of success with the under-21s the previous year, and he gets the job. And early that year, there just seems to be a different vibe off you guys.
Yeah.
A steeliness that maybe wasn't there before. How would you describe it? What changed?
Training, just torture. Anthony just had us like running. It was small things, like I remember we played UCD in Belfield at a Walsh Cup game or something. We played the match, and then after the game we were out the back in another field just doing these runs, and like there was people actually gathered around looking at us going, what
is wrong with these boys?
Yeah. And it was like, and he changed, like he brought in, he was over the 21s I think the year before, and they won the All-Ireland. I think he brought in something like 21 of the panel, like lads that weren't even playing. He brought them in to the senior panel and got rid of a lot of the older guys. So that was a kind of a big statement from him. We used to, like, during the winter we used to train down in UL. I was down in Limerick, and Johnny Glenn and myself, Paul Killeen, Irlatanian used to actually come down to Limerick because he thought it was probably easier. I'd say.
Than doing it both.
We had Tom Helbert, he was a selector that used to come down. There used to be 4 or 5 of us, and do you know the rugby field in UL there in Munster, and then there's the big hill kind of around it.
Yeah.
Like we'd start at one corner and that continuous. We'd done that, like, I don't know how long or how many we'd done, was basically timed. Tom would be standing at the top and he'd blow the whistle and we'd be down the bottom, and just the recovery would be to jog back, go again. So that sort of stuff. And he definitely instilled a tougher mental side of things. Not necessarily maybe to get us fit, but like we used to do things with Fitzy in college with Davy Fitz that wasn't getting us fitter, but definitely brought us tighter together. Like we used to be in Cratloe, we used to do these 1 kilometre time trials, and like if the last lad didn't get in the time, we'd all have to do it again. So it was more about kind of team building.
Trying to break you almost.
Yeah.
build you up
and
again.
That's all it was. And it's not fitness work. Like you might only do 7 or 8 of them.
It's mental.
It's a mental thing. We used to do this horse track in Broadford, sand track, run around the track and then up this hill, and like you'd hardly walk it, never mind run it. Do that a couple of times. Shannon Hill that they used to do with Clare back in the day, carry lads up the hill in your back, and all mental stuff. Yeah, but all mental stuff like that. I actually, like, you hated doing it, but you felt so good after it in some ways, like that you got through it. So Anthony would have done a lot of that sort of like.
Even listen, I never met Anthony Cunningham before, but you know, watching him even with football interviews and hurling interviews, it just seems to be a steeliness to him. Just brings that with him, like.
Yeah. No, we had great crack with him as well, like.
But he's a no bullshit character, isn't he?
Yeah. But like we would have had, you know, the odd night out that'd be good crack as well. You know, he would have married them two things very well, and. It was kind of obviously the end didn't work out greatly, but a lot of that was kind of, I firmly believed that it was like looking for excuses as well to blame somebody else for us
we'll
not
get
winning.
to that, don't worry.
I know, but that's solely it, like. But definitely helped us a lot in stealing our minds and getting us mentally tougher. And
that was
fitter.
to the fore on that Leinster final. You guys looked like a proper team for the first time, really, in probably maybe since you got to the All Ireland in 05. A Galway team that looked like they meant business.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've no recollection of going like before that game, going, "Geez, this is
it's different here."
Yeah.
Remember we played Kilkenny out of the water.
Yeah, it was funny though. I remember the one thing I remember about that is we played Waterford down in Rathkeil in a challenge, and Michael Ryan was over Waterford at the time. And he came down to us after the game. I don't know if you've ever met him or whatever, but he gave a speech to us.
Greatest Waterford accent of all time.
Yeah. But he gave a speech to us after that game. And like if we went out and played another match straight out, you'd play it. It was one of those things
I'm saying what to you?
Just that like nobody would give us a chance and nobody gave them a chance and all that cliche kind of stuff, but I don't know if it was his accent or what.
Just how it's delivered.
Yeah. And it wasn't expected, because like what other intercounty manager comes
Yeah.
down to another intercounty team and gives a speech? But I always remember those kind of things. But that's not the reason we won the match or anything like that. It was just one of those days, I suppose. Maybe we just caught them on the hop a little bit, because in fairness, we weren't giving them any games before that. And unfortunately, they came back in the All-Ireland and beat us or whatever. But it was a good monkey off our backs that we got to a semi-final, and then beat Cork in the semi-final, because there was no point in winning that and then getting bet by Cork. But yeah, it gave us a little bit of belief. But then 13, obviously, we lost quarter-final again. 14, drew with Kilkenny, lost to Kilkenny, the replay, lost Tip. In the space of like basically 2 weeks, 3 weekends, we were gone out of championship, playing Kilkenny twice in Tipperary, and they were in their pomp. So yeah,
Back to the All Ireland 15.
yeah, back to the All Ireland 15, and like 15 was a mixed bag, like massive mixed bag of early on the year not great, and then getting to the All Ireland, and the start of that kind of trilogy with Tipperary in semi-finals.
Before you leave 12, there's something that I wanted to run past you, because I'm not on the beat anymore, but I was, and
Yeah.
most of the times you and I would have met over the years, I was holding a microphone in front of you, and the longer that part of my career went on, the more I grew to hate the interviews with the intercounty hurlers and footballers.
Yeah.
Because they were so boring. You didn't want to be there. Because you didn't want to be there, I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And we play it out on the radio that night, but it's 10 minutes of fluff.
Yeah.
And yet, we'd blame you guys for that and go down to the Kilkenny All-Ireland press nights, and it's like trying to get blood out of a stone. And they all found their voice after they retired.
Yeah.
Henry and Tommy and Eddie and all these boys. But you said something in the press night between the drawn game of the All-Ireland final in 2012 and the replay. And it was, you were paying Henry Shefflin a compliment, talking about the dog in him, and that if Galway wanted to be winning an All-Ireland, they needed to be more like Henry and Kilkenny in general.
Yeah.
You were talking about, it was construed that you were accusing him of being unsportsmanlike.
And it was that word that I shouldn't have used. But if you read the whole context of the thing, I was trying to like say we should be more like him.
But is it any wonder that
Well,
I
that
thought
changed.
the curtain came down in Kilkenny's
After that.
hurlers' minds after that. They
Came
saw
down
what you
and-
went through, and I'd say Coney was like, you saw what happened Canning. He was paying Henry Shefflin a compliment. I don't think a Kilkenny hurler spoke anything of any substance after that.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
But understandably.
That changed my complete interaction with you guys completely. Like it was literally like I remember even after that, Gerard Cunningham, he was with Borgosh Energy at the time, the Cork goalie, former Cork goalie, and he rang me after and he said, one of the guys is on to me here that you said something, and I was like, jeez, I don't think so. And he said, are you sure now you're okay, whatever? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Next morning then I woke up and it was like bang all over the place. I was like, what the fuck did I say? Do you know, in my own like maybe naivety or whatever, it's just that word that I regret saying. But I didn't mean it in that way. It was just, I was like, you saw him running back to pitch, arguing with the referee. Everything changed after that, and they got on top and got the little calls and the little breaks, and we need to be more streetwise like that, basically.
Because he described that performance in that drawn game as the finest performance of his career.
Yeah. Like he dragged them back into it. But like he ran 50 yards to demonstrate with the referee over a thing down the other end of the
That's
field.
what the big teams do and the
Exactly.
big players do. And
Yeah, and
you watch.
I done it
dubs?
myself,
Yeah,
like, and
yeah.
everybody does it. But like in my head, I was like going, we need to be more like him.
Yeah,
the
but
next
especially
day.
if you're trying to knock the door
Yeah,
down and get to that level, you have to.
And it was just, I know the guy that done it, that zoned in on that piece.
The headline was Canning in bizarre rant at Sheffield.
Yeah, and it wasn't a rant, like it wasn't. But we, like, everybody in Kilkenny hated me, and right, like fair enough. Like it's they're protecting their own or whatever. But like I spoke to Henry about it after that, and like I think he understood what I was trying to say. Like,
But do you think Kilkenny did use that as fuel?
oh, I'd say so. If I'd say so. Yeah. I
Did you feel you let the lads down?
Yeah. I felt totally that was. I was dreading going into training, like the Tuesday or whatever it was. And I don't think Anthony made a big deal about it. I think he was trying to, like, from my thinking of it, it wasn't. I'd say some of the lads, just went, what do you have to do? And like, I'd say they kind of, thinking back, they probably used that for a failing of not winning. But we were in good positions both days, really, at times. Like, remember I hit the butt of the post in the second match, ball went down the field and they got a goal. And just changed the game like that, and then they ran out.
6 point swing.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a situation like that where, because you weren't a great talker yourself to the media?
No,
I'm not blaming you for that, because Joe's example is a very good reason why you don't do it.
Like, that's why you would have always, you're very conscious of say plenty but say nothing at the same time. You know what I mean? And that was like purely like there was no intent in what Joe was saying, but all of a sudden it's everywhere, and that's just what the media want, is to have a headline, have something to fill the back pages, and now obviously social media and everything else. So you can understand why managers and players are so intent on keeping things locked down and keeping them closed down, because as Joe says himself, there's no doubt that Cody and all the Kilkenny players had that filled through their dressing room for the week, and you're just handing over an impetus to a team, even though there was nothing in it. But teams are looking, just scraping for any way.
I would have used from other teams down through the years, 100%, and there'd be no malice whatsoever.
No.
But I'd be like, what can I get to get me up for this game, and use something small.
Go on, looking for it. And maybe finding something where there's nothing, or making something up. Even 9
times out of 10 there was nothing.
Yeah,
in it.
But managers would have made stuff up. Just purely just planting a seed. So it's.
Well, you remember watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan? He was fabricating slights.
Yeah.
Stuff that never happened. But it was his truth. In his mind, somebody had slighted him some way, and he was going to show them who was boss.
I used that. I'd say I still have stuff on my phone from years ago that I would have used. I remember, I think it was some online thing said I had a point to prove in 2017 league. I was after tearing the hamstring off the bone, like, and they put me and Patrick Horgan saying we have a point to prove to, like, basically you need to play well this year or else you're finished, like. And I remember taking the thing, and like I was like, fuck me.
Yeah.
A small thing like that, but probably did. But in my head I was like, Jesus, I was probably like this much away from never playing again, and now lads are like writing me off already. So like things like that are stupid really to other people, but in my head I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going with. Like, we lost Wexford in 16 league, Mihall's first year, and the Galway journalist wrote Galway flops again. It was in the headline, like, and I know he didn't do the headline because the editor does the headline or whatever, but like it was his piece, and I was like, he's never doing an interview with us again, stuff like that. It's mad, like, but that was how I grew up, because I live in the border of Galway Tipperary, and like Portumna would never have been a massive, I suppose, success underage. So we were always seen as the kind of the tip guys in Galway in some ways. So I grew up with that kind of chip on my shoulder a little bit of trying to prove people wrong.
You need that. You need something, whatever it is. You need that wee just thing to carry around with you, just to keep you driven, keep you pushed on.
Yeah.
Feel as if you're always have a point to prove, even though, as it got on in your career that you had done everything you still had done, but you still in your own head, you had something to prove.
Yeah. You were always looking for something just to get that little bit extra.
There must have been something in the water out west that year, because Mayo get to an All-Ireland semi-final, take Dubs to a replay, the greatest team of all time, they get rid of the management. There's a no confidence vote. They get rid of Pat Holmes and Noel Kennelly. Similarly, you guys, after getting to 2 All-Ireland finals in 4 years under Anthony, no confidence vote. And he's gone. Remember seeing an interview with him, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
He was devastated by that.
Yeah.
Did you vote to keep him?
Yeah. I was one of 5. He still talks to me, so I get on well with Anthony. Actually, yeah, he does be in the bar in Athlone a bit whenever he's free to have a few pints, because he lives in Athlone, obviously. So I was one of 5, maybe 6. There's kind of, there's 1 or 2 that are kind of, I'm not too sure about. I definitely know 4 or 5 lads that definitely voted to keep him. And I at times I was probably in my own head going, now we should get, when you're in meetings and stuff like that and you're like being influenced by other guys and they're making good points, but when it came to it, like at times I was probably going, yeah, maybe we should change. But then at the end of the day, when it came to it, I was like, I did feel he should change some things. I did feel that he was probably trying to do it all himself.
Was he given the opportunity to change some things?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Did you feel that by voting no, in terms of getting rid of him, that it would be you guys abdicating responsibility for your failures?
Yeah.
And just pinning it all on somebody else?
At the end of the day, the one thing why I voted to keep him was that I felt that if we got rid of him, exactly, that was us going, we're blaming him for all our failures. And I didn't feel that was right, because at the end of the day, we're in the 4 white lines. We're playing the game. Yes, there's a small bit towards management, but they make changes and pick the teams and whatever. But at the end of the day, we carry out what's happening on the pitch. And did I feel that he was to blame for that? No. When it really came down to it. So that's why I voted to keep him. And I can see the point of other guys voting to get rid of him, and everybody has their own opinion, and you always have as any team, you have a few young guys that are kind of don't say too much and are influenced by other guys and stuff, and that's fair enough too. The majority voted to get rid of him. So in any walk of life, that's what you have to go with.
And so many of those boys were the 21s that he brought into the panel 3 years before. Would that be fair?
Well, considering there was only 4 or 5 of stick of us to keep him, and there was a few, all right, yeah.
But look, that put the onus on you guys to really back it up now.
Yeah.
The manager's been, and I think, was there a push against Loughnane in 08? I know he felt he might have got another year, but it's again another inter-county team following the likes of Limerick, Mayo, Cork, Waterford. Got rid of the manager. You have to deliver then.
Yeah.
And I know the semi-final against Tip was an epic in 2016, and they went on to win the All-Ireland.
Yeah.
Hamstring gets torn.
Yeah.
People writing you off again. Further field for you. So 2017, this epic year, this year of all years, league title, Leinster title, All-Ireland title. At what point in 17 do you feel that things might be different this time? Or was there a point?
Like, hindsight is brilliant when you look back, when you're successful and you can point things out, but I remember we played Waterford in the league in Saltine. We were like 10 points down, and Waterford didn't even have their best team out, and we came back from 10 points down and won the game by 3, I think.
Is that one of the first couple of games of the league that year?
Yeah, it was like a quarter-final. I think it was league quarter-final or something like that. And then we played Limerick in the semi-final, beat them relatively okay down in Limerick, and then we played Tipperary in the league final. And back then, like, Tip were flying in the league. Like, they were hammering everybody. And we came from Division 1B, you see. Because the thing is, going back to 15, we were relegated to Division 1B. We were expected to get out of it in 16, lost to Wexford. That means we're not going up. So we were back again in 17, Division 1B. And we beat Tipperary. And again, like, you look at those matches and you go, geez, did you expect to beat Tipperary that day? No. I think we bet them by a good few scores that day. But, and then just carried on. I think Dublin played Offaly, who played like 8 defenders, 2 sweepers. The first time we came up against, it was joke shop that day. And then got to Leinster final against Wexford again, won that. And then you're playing Tipperary again in a semi-final, and it's like a point again for 3 years in a row. And then the final against Waterford was funny because I don't think we ever bet Waterford in Championship before that. Don't think we've ever beaten Waterford in Championship, only that time.
But you can't skip over the point against Tip before we talk Waterford.
Yeah.
I can't remember seeing a greater score in Croke Park, and it's not just the fact that it's, an effort from the Cusack stand right on the sideline with the angle. It must be 50, 55 metres from goal. It's just that it's a drawn game. It's everything that's gone before it. It's can't produce on the big stage. It's Galway or chokers. Tip have got the better in these big games. It's like everything thrown into this cauldron and minted up into this one moment where you've got 2 Tip lads in your face, and this is the game. And it's
ridiculous.
It's just an astonishing moment in the history of the hurling championship.
Yeah, but that's like I don't want to downplay it, right? And I'm going to a point, right? But sometimes people can over exaggerate things and then under exaggerate things, and there's somewhere in the middle. And I'd put it somewhere in the middle, right? Because probably 10 minutes before that I got a point from the exact same area. Now nobody was around me or whatever, but I hit the same point. At half time in that match, I think there was a tweet going out that basically from bench warmers or whatever going like Keys, Wallace, Joe Canning, and somebody when you lose and you can't find anything. It's something like that. It was taken down after the match, alright. So like Bubbles had a chance, and if I thought he'd get it, for a guy of his, I thought he should have probably got it to draw the match, and then that it would have been forgotten about my score. I get it that it was a score to win the game, and
but if you're sitting in the Sunday game studio commentating on that game, and you're watching that, you're thinking, Jesus.
Yeah. It is, fair enough. But like that's like you're there to do it. Like in the first half, I was pretty shit, really, and then I just switched to wing forward and got a lot more space. Because it's funny how we would have targeted that in the league final. Would have targeted Pádraig Maher with Cathal Mannion. That there's an awful lot of space in front of him. Because Pádraig used to go back in behind, like loop in behind and get the breaking ball and stuff like that. So when I was going out, I was told that as well, that like there'd be a lot of space. So I got like I got 3 points from play from just that little area.
Yeah.
So it's funny how like things kind of repeat, and it's all down to that. Like I remember going back even in 18, our guys behind the scenes, John Conlon used to be full forward, and every time he got Podge Collins used to vacate 13 corner. Conlon used to get every ball into his left hand down that 13 corner. And all year he was going unbelievable. He was getting 4 or 5 points from play, and I think he got 1 or 2 points over the 2 games off Dahi Burke in the semi-final. So like small things that help you
can be the difference.
Can be the slightest difference. And they were great games against Tipperary. They were hurling games, like they were just all out, just who could score more than the other, really. Great games to be involved in. Like some semi-finals were probably the best games ever compared to even finals. Like because absolute I think referees classics. Even just let them
everything's just the whole desire to get over the line, get to the final, and then maybe the finals become a wee bit more cagey. And
they do, There's a bit more nervousness and stuff like that. So,
so you get to the final, and I just remember the build-up being centred around you and Michael Brick Welch.
Oh yeah.
One of these 2 lads are going to get the medal they deserve, and obviously you're just one of 30 lads starting and one of 60 on the 2 panels. It's unfair to frame it in those terms, but you guys were kind of the centre of the narrative on the day, and I just wonder if you can just try and describe to us what the feeling of the full-time whistle is. Is it ecstasy or is it more relief?
It's just like pressure valve, just releasing. That's all. Yeah, it's just like it's a mix of everything. You're just going a bit mad, like you're just running around. It's like looking stupid, really. But it's literally just relief, pressure, excitement. Yes, it's a class feeling, but like it's.
Is there a vindication?
I don't think so. No,
It's mad to hear the amount of people that talk about relief being the overriding emotion out of everything, you know, because you've just invested so much into it and put so much time and effort into it that it's just relief of finally got over the line.
It's just getting over the line, yeah. Because I play like what we played in 4, whatever with replays. Only won 1, like. You know, so I saw a stat there lately after footballers losing. Like I think we've the worst combined over the last 40 years or something of losing All Ireland.
But if you think of what your career how it would have ended without the medal, like we've had Lee Keegan in the chair here and Patrick Horgan in that chair, and both have insisted that the medal isn't it's not the be all and end all. Their lives and their careers, their personalities and their characters are by no means defined by the presence of the medal or otherwise.
Yeah,
but still in all though.
It's nice. It's nice to have it, right? Don't get me wrong.
More than that, it must be more than just nice to get it. Like,
well, you don't have lads in the pub saying you don't have one. Like, it's small things like that you don't have people kind of coming up to you and going, Jesus. But that goes back to my point earlier about like Ken McGrath and these guys and Ollie and Damien. Like, do I look at them any different than I look at a guy with, let's say, for instance, and don't disrespect to them, right?
A lot of Kilkenny lads walking around with 5 or 6 of them.
Some of the Limerick lads now, like, and that's no disrespect, and it's no different. But like, do I look at them any different just because they've 4 All Irelands in their back pocket compared to Ken McGrath? No, like I'd look at Ken McGrath's like one of my favourites of all time. And team sport is a little bit different than individual sport. If Ken McGrath was playing golf or tennis, right, and he didn't win a major or couldn't get over the line, then maybe it's fair enough. But when you have a whole group of guys that you have to rely on to play really well, in my mind, I'm a little bit different on that. I don't treat them the same as because you could be an unbelievable footballer or hurler and you're just born in the wrong county. Yeah. Do you know? And
the Declan Browns of this world.
Yeah, for instance, yeah. So like, that's not to say that he's a worse footballer than
not one of the greats.
Maurice Fitz or David Clifford or whoever. Like, yeah, it's just, if you're born in Kerry, you have a fair chance of winning All Ireland, or born in Dublin for football, or Kilkenny for hurling, or whatever. But yeah, it was the only thing I haven't won is an under 14 medal. That's it. Everything I've played now, club, but inter-county wise, colleges. The only thing I haven't is an under 14 Tony Forrestal.
The one that got away.
Yeah, and it's but everything else I at least have one of. Yeah.
Listen, you've been unbelievable with your time. I so often say we could have spent over 2 hours talking to you, but I want to ask you one question before you go. Obviously, Portumna is in your blood. You're a Portumna man in Galway. Your mum and dad and the family were so steeped in hurling and camogie in the club. And I know you lost your mum a couple of years ago, sadly, to cancer. But she was around with the rest of your family to see you win that All Ireland. And I saw an unbelievable quote from Sambo, the great Antrim hurler Sambo McNaughton. And just to get it right, he says, the lads you play with in the county team, you make friends, you get invited to their weddings. But the lads you play with in your club are the lads that will shoulder you to your grave. Friends for life. Would that sum up how you feel about Portumna versus Galway? That there's just a connection and a love for Portumna that is unbreakable and unsurpassable.
Yeah, I think everybody, your club, well, I certainly do. I'd say you have the same for your club, right? Like, I love going back to Portumna. I don't live there anymore. I live in Limerick. I'm married in there, but some things you can't you can't do.
Not
but,
the boss of.
Yeah. So, like, it shaped me, you know. It gave me some of the best days of my life. Like, we were, like, from 2003 to 2013, 14, 4 clubs, you know, have 5 county medals, and the lads have 6 or whatever. But we had some brilliant times for it's a small little area. We're in the border Tipperary, and I'm 5 miles outside the town, and it's a small little half circle, basically. It's a small club, really. But I go back there now, and we were training last night, and there was kids on the pitch before we trained. When we were leaving, there was kids poking around after, and that to me is like why I go back. Like, you've all the lads that we played with probably have kids now coming up, like Hazy and Lynchy and all the boys, that are like, our underage isn't too bad at the moment. They won a couple of titles under 11, 12, 13 and whatever, but it's cool to see the next generation coming. Like, I have nephews playing with me now. Like, the last day in the match, I had a nephew in goals, a nephew on my left and a nephew on my right, and I was centre forward, and like,
Let them do the running.
Yeah. And I have to stay now. I have another nephew coming. He's under 16, so I have to wait another year or two. I promised him he had to cut his mohawk off if I stayed on. So I came home a few days later and the mohawk was gone. So I have to wait on for him if I can, and stay playing with them. But that's pretty cool, like, to see and play with them, because it shaped me. It's what I represent, and I just love the club. Like, there's lads in Limerick trying to get me to go down and play with them, but like, I couldn't. And
No chance.
But that's my own thing. Some lads do decide to, you know, transfer or whatever, and that's fine. But to me, I'd never do it, no matter how good or how bad we became.
Some things are sacred, aren't they?
Some things are sacred, and that's how I grew up. Like, and was brought up. Geez, Dad would go mad and say, yeah, because, but yeah, it's special.
I think that's a nice note to leave it on. And not only are we leaving Joe's interview on that note, but we're leaving the season as a whole here in the Square Ball on that note. Obviously, want to give Joe a huge amount of thanks for spending some time with us, and what a way for us to finish the first series of the Square Ball. Thanks to Lee, obviously, who can't be with us for the last few weeks. Things are great at home with the latest addition to the Keegan family, so we continue to wish them well. He was the co-host for the first few episodes. Connor stepped into the breach over the last 4, and he has played a blinder as well. So best of luck with the continued recovery from the hand injury, and we'll definitely see you in a Clontibre shirt again. Who knows whether we'll see you in a Monaghan jersey again.
Still beating that
Still
drum.
banging on that drum. Our thanks to our colleagues at William Hill, who are sponsored this podcast over the last few weeks. If you're late to the Square Ball party, you're lucky, because you've got a whole bank of episodes that you can now delve into, from Joe today to the likes of Porrig Marr and Sean Cavan and Niall Morgan, who was with us last week. Great chat with Kevin Cassidy, Aisling Thompson. There's a load of them that you can head into and start listening to now. Do continue to stay in touch on our social channels, like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll speak to you very soon. We've got plans to be back. Thanks for listening, and we will chat to you whenever we meet you again. Thank you so much.